Before we get started, I have a quick favor. I've been self-funding the Finding Genius podcast for 5 years now. I've done over 3,000 episodes. And as you can see on YouTube, we're up over 1 million views on the channel, which is fantastic. The next thing I really want to push on is to get up to 10,000 subscribers. Because once we do, we'll be able to put a donate button and we'll be able to solicit donations to help keep the podcast running and to also get the Finding Genius Foundation moving along. We have a big project studying anxiety, depression, and PTSD and working on a product to help people overcome these problems because I've seen them explode recently after the last 2 years of the whole virus situation. So if you would, please subscribe to the podcast. That would help us tremendously. Give us a thumbs up and check in the description for Buy Me a Coffee. It's about $5. If you could buy me a coffee, I'd really appreciate it. It would help keep the channel going, and I love coffee. Thank you.
Forget frequently asked questions.
Common sense, common knowledge, or Google.
How about advice from a real genius? 95% of people in any profession are good enough to be qualified and licensed. 5%
Go above and beyond.
they become very good at what they do, but only
0.1%.
are real geniuses. Richard Jacobs has made it his life's mission to find them for you. He hunts down and interviews geniuses in every field: sleep science, cancer, stem cells, ketogenic diets, and more. Here come the geniuses. This is the Finding Genius Podcast.
With Richard Jacobs.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Finding Genius Podcast. My guest today is Dennis J. Hensen. He's an author. He's the founder of Vanguard Marketing and Investments Incorporated. We're going to talk about Dennis's bio kind of in his own words, but he's been involved in real estate for, looks like right about at least 20 years. He has several books out. He's taught classes in real estate investing. His books are The Royal Flush of Real Estate Investing and also A Millionaire's Treasure Map to Real Estate Investing that have received great reviews. So I'm glad to have him today, and welcome, Dennis.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, tell me a bit about your background. How did you first get curious and interested in real estate investing?
I used to stay up at night and watch TV, and I would see Carlton Sheets, and he would talk about how easy it was to purchase properties and fix them up and rent them out and make money over a period of time. And I always thought, well, that'd be interesting. I'd like to maybe do that someday. So after I graduated from college, I became a band director, and part of my salary was that they were going to provide me a home to live in to get me to come to this little school. And so I went there, and the principal come in and he said, well, the board met and they're going to let you live in that home. And I said, well, I haven't made any other arrangements. And he said, well, the school does own a little lot. If you wanted to bring in a mobile home, you could put it there. So I purchased a mobile home, put it on the lot. And I thought, well, this is going to be fine. It's on the school ground. I don't have to walk very far. And I'd been living with some band parents till that got set up. So the first night I moved into the mobile home about 3 a.m. The home was on Railroad Street. About 3 a.m, I found out why it was Railroad Street, because the train came within about 5 feet of the mobile home.
Oh,
and it took me out of the bed. So I thought, well, this is not going to work. So I bought a house. Then I thought, well, I'll rent the mobile home because, I saw some friends do that in college. So some family came by and they gave me a check for $300 and they moved in, and the check bounced and I never saw them again. They never paid another payment, and it took me a year to figure out how to get them out. That's how I got into real estate investing. And after I did that, I thought, well, I'm not.
How many years ago was it, by the way?
Oh, that was in 1970. So,
So you've only been doing this for 54 years. I mean, that's not really much, Just getting good.
but that's how I got started. And after a couple more years, I bought some more courses on real estate and got started again. And I've been doing it for over 50 years now.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Are you, I don't know, I'm sure when you think about prices, when you first started investing and you think about them now, it must be mind-boggling. What's that experience been like to see the prices go up and up and up and up unbelievably?
Well, it feels pretty good. I mean, if you have lots of properties, when those prices go up, so does your net worth, and so does the rent. So it's not really a bad thing for real estate investors when the property values go up. It's actually a pretty good thing.
Yeah. Are you surprised? Have there been many times where you're like, oh man, I can't go much higher than this? Did you ever, what have you thought over the years about prices? Just, some anecdotal thoughts.
I never really thought too much about it because the way that I do real estate investing is based on what's the price today. So if the price today is $250,000, then I'm going to buy or make an offer on the property based on that minus repairs and have a markup in there. So I've been lucky for all the time that I've been in real estate investing. The prices have pretty much always just gone up. So the older, the longer I've had the properties, the more they're worth. Of course, there's some maintenance involved, wear and tear and so forth. But real estate investing overall is a pretty good business to be in. And my students in real estate have been extremely successful. I mean, much more successful than I am. I'm a better teacher than a real estate investor based on the success of my students.
Well, so, what kinds of things have you tried in real estate? Have you done just single family homes or commercial? Like, what's been some of the angles you've tried and, how do they work out?
I've only done single family. And I shouldn't say only. I've dipped my finger or my toe into some commercial, and I've looked at some multifamily in the past, but really those are different businesses. They're not, they're both real estate, but they're really different in the sets of skills that you have to make those work. So I found out that all of them work, but if you concentrate on one and get really good on that, you don't really need the others. You don't have to diversify. You don't have to know everything about, if you play basketball, you don't have to know everything about football and soccer and everything else. You just need to be really good at what you're playing. And so that's pretty much what I teach, and that's pretty much what I've always done.
But there's a lot of philosophies. Some people will go into mobile homes, some people single family,
Right.
Condos, commercial, get as many doors as you can, self-manage, have property management, flip, keep them long-term. There's a ton of different angles. So which ones have you settled on, if not one angle? Like what are some of the core principles you teach?
Well, as far as real estate, I only do single family, but there's a lot of different techniques. There's short sales, subject to, private money, and the list just goes on and on and on and on. And those are all advanced techniques. So in 2003 or 4, I was doing real estate investing in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Arlington. And I wanted to go to some real estate investor meetings and meet other investors. I wanted to hear the speakers. But every time I went, I had to, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is big. Really big. To go from Arlington to parts of Dallas is an hour drive. And the same way with Fort Worth. So I found myself having to go a long way and then come back really late. And I didn't like that. So I thought, I'll start an investor group here in Arlington. Then I get to pick the speakers and I get to meet all of the people and I can teach classes. And for the things that I'm not really too good at or don't know a lot about, I'll teach a class on that. Then I'll have to get good. I say, well, I don't understand subject to that well. So I scheduled an elite meeting where I'm teaching subject to. So for the next month, I just really delve into the how subject to work, and I write articles on it, and I would answer questions about it. So by the end of that month, when I had to get up in front of 50 to 100 people and teach it, I knew it pretty well. So I got an awful lot out of doing the training. So one day, one of the members on my group came up to me and he said, Dennis, I'm going to retire in about a month, and I'm going to let you mentor me on what you're doing. You can teach me what you're doing. And I said, Mike, I'm really busy. I'm teaching these classes. I have the meetings. I have my real estate investing. I have renters. I have my office to run. I'm really not interested in teaching. And he says, well, you didn't hear what I said. He said, I'm going to retire in about a month, and you're going to teach me what you do. And he said, I'll take you to dinner and we'll discuss it. I thought, okay. I told my wife, Norma, right before I went to dinner, I said, I'm going to tell Mike, I am not going to do this. I just don't have time and I'm not interested. So we had lunch, and after lunch, he reached in his pocket and he pulled out a checkbook and he handed it to me. He said, fill that out. And I thought, well, this will fix him. I know I'll put a number here. He possibly pay. And that'll be the end. I can go home and go back to work. So I put a number there that was just ridiculous. And I handed it to him. He tore the check out, signed it, and never even looked at the number. And he handed it to me.
Wow. He's pretty serious.
That's when I started teaching.
That's cool. That's a cool experience,
And after that, I thought, well, if I'm going to charge this kind of money, I could have a really good training program because, I'm an honest guy. I don't want to just take the people's money. I want them to be able to get something from it. So I put together a training program that was so good. I got a reputation in Texas and in other places that I was a really good teacher. So I got invited to speak and a lot of expos and that kind of thing. And I would be invited to podcasts like this. So one day during a podcast, the host said, Dennis, your students are just amazing. What's one thing you can share with our listeners that you believe just one thing that would help them become successful? So I thought for a second and I said, well, if they form the habit of doing successful things, they will become successful. That's what I have my students do. And then he said, what's the most successful habit that they could form? And I said, form the habit of reading something positive every single day that will lead you toward your goal. So after the podcast was over, I thought, that was really the right answer. I'd never really thought of it, but that was a good answer. Then I thought, wouldn't it be great if someone would come up with some kind of a tool, an app or a book or something to help people form the habit of reading something positive every day. And then like a bolt out of the blue, it was like an experience where I was shaken. I realized I can do this. I've been collecting poems, short stories, and quotes for 50 years. It just, I just did it. I didn't have any reason other than Jim Rohn told me early in my career that I should journal and write down things. I may need them in the future. So I thought, well, I can write a book where people, no matter what they want, whether it's real estate investing, whether it's the law, whether it's medicine, no matter what they want, they can form the habit of reading something positive every day and get to where they want to go much faster. So I thought, well, I've got all this stuff. It'll just take a few months and I'll have the book. This was in 2018. And this is 2020, what is this, 24? And it got published this year. So it took me, 6 years to be able to get it all the way I wanted it because I had way, way too many quotes and too many poems, and I had over 100 short stories, and the book would have been an encyclopedia, and it was very difficult to take out parts because I loved them all so much. But now I have a book where people who have a busy schedule, they don't have time to read an hour a day or 30 minutes. They can read a quote. If they get home right before bed and they didn't read that day, they can read a quote and think about it while they're sleeping. Or if they have 5 minutes between appointments, they can read a poem or 2 poems. Or if they're at the airport waiting for a plane, they can read a short story or a long story. And then in the back of the book, I have a list of really powerful books. I get reviews on Amazon, and some of the reviews on Amazon say I gave you the 5 stars because of the list of books in the back. They're that good.
Before we continue, I've been personally funding the Finding Genius podcast for 4.5 years now, which has led to 2,700 plus interviews of clinicians, researchers, scientists, CEOs, and other amazing people who are working to advance science and improve our lives and our world. Even though this podcast gets 100,000 plus downloads a month, we need your help to reach hundreds of thousands more worldwide. Please visit findinggeniuspodcast.com and click on Support Us. We have 3 levels of membership from $10 to $49 a month, including perks such as the ability to see ahead in our interview calendar and ask questions of upcoming guests, transcripts of podcasts you're interested in, the ability to request specific topics or guests, and more. Visit findinggeniuspodcast.com and click Support Us today. Now back to the show.
But why would just reading like positive things help? What about the people that say, I want to read positive things. I just want information on how to improve my real estate investing. You ever get any curmudgeons that say that to you?
Well, they can read my books on real estate if that's what they want. I've got How to Get Started Investing in Real Estate, The Royal Flush of Real Estate, All the Money You'll Ever Need. I mean, if that's what they want, I've got those books too. But this book is much more powerful than those. It has books in it, in that list, that's going to motivate them. It's going to give them a powerful success system. It's going to give them a sense of exhilaration. And the stories are cathartic. They'll make you cry. They're so powerful how people have failed so many times, yet they just continue to get up. And it's successful people that you would know their name. And the list of books in the back, well, you couldn't pay somebody to read for 50 years and just keep the best one, the ones that would motivate you, and put them in priority order. What's that worth? If you paid somebody to do that, it would cost you $1 million. I mean, 50 years is a long time, and that's a lot of reading. Plus, the book solves a problem. Everyone needs a gift for a special person that doesn't break the bank. And the book is a wonderful gift. It's called Real Impact Daily Inspiration. And I went all out when I published this book. It's so nice that I was doing a podcast with a book publisher. Now, this guy is well known, and he prints books and publishes, and I sent him a hardcover of the book. During the podcast, he held it up and he said, "Dennis, this is the nicest book I've ever held in my hand." And it is. I spent a fortune getting it to be beautiful so that you can give it to your grandparents, you can give it to your children, grandchildren, people that are graduating high school and college seniors. It would be a super book to help change their life. So I went, it took 5 years, but it's a quality product. And I want to give your listeners a free ebook, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Sure. What's a good link where they could get it? And what's it about?
RealImpactBook.com, REAL impactbook.com. Scroll down to the bottom where it says podcast guests or podcast listeners. And you just click on that, put in your name and email. It won't put you on an email list, and it will automatically send you the book. It'll send this instantly. You'll have it and you can download it and read it. And I know that people that get it and read it will say, this is something that's good, and they'll want to give it to people that they love and help them change life.
Okay. This one that you're offering for free download, is it a bit about real estate, or is this more like positive affirmations and stories and stuff?
No, it's for anyone who wants to improve their life. It's not about real estate. However, in my real estate training, I had one section on the training site and in one section in the training about motivation, because regardless of what it is you do, the first thing you have to do is get your mind right. That's the first of the 7 secrets of success. And part of getting your mind right is having a positive mental attitude and being excited about what it is you're trying to accomplish. Like Henry Ford once said, if a fellow believes he can do a thing, he's probably right. If a fellow believes he can't do a thing, he's probably right. So one of the first things I had to do with my students was to teach them to believe that they could become successful. And this was in real estate investing, but I also teach business. And in that training, it doesn't really matter what it is. It could be someone wanting to become a nurse or a doctor or an attorney, or maybe they want to become an engineer or maybe an electrician. It doesn't really matter what it is. The main thing is you have to know what you want first, and then once you know where you want to go, then this is a roadmap of how to get there. You read a little bit every day. Zig Ziglar said, remember, little by little, a little becomes a lot. If you read for 20 minutes a day on a 200-page book, at the end of a year, you would have read 20 books.
Which is a lot.
19.
There's 20 more than most people read a year, yeah.
19 more than the average person. And then he says, imagine how that would change your life. And it will. I mean, if you read 20 books a year, especially on a specific topic, you'll become an expert, which is kind of how I became an expert. In real estate investing, you can Google me and you're going to find 50 pages about me in real estate and on YouTube, and it goes on and on. Well,
I mean, would you be able to give any specifics for listeners? Again, you have such a long experience. What are some like real hard-won lessons that you've gotten from doing real estate investing? What are some things that you maybe you screwed up big time and it taught you a lot?
Well, we just covered the first one. I mean, the first thing you got to do is believe. You have to get your mind right and be positive. The next thing is you have to seek wisdom, which is what I'm talking about reading the book. And then the next one is there's certain skills in any business or sport. There's certain skills that must be mastered. For example, if you play basketball and you can't dribble or shoot or run or pass, you can't play basketball. I mean, you can look good and be strong and get out on the court, but you won't be successful. Well, it's the same way in any business or real estate. In real estate, the skills are mining, maintenance, marketing, and management. Mining is finding a good deal. Money is finding the money to make the deal work. Maintenance is fixing the property up so it's ready to go. Marketing is letting everybody know so that you can rent it or sell it. And then management is managing your business, because if you become successful, you'll have a business, you'll end up with a secretary, you'll end up with lots of people, contractors and people working for you, and someone has to manage those. But that's not exclusive to real estate. Those 5 M's are the 5 M's of business. Any business has to have a product, and then they have to have the money to make it work. So real estate is just the name of a destination. And when you're teaching someone, it really doesn't matter what their destination is as long as they know. I used to bring my real estate students in and say, what if you were planning a trip? Tell me how to plan the trip. And one of the first things they would ask me is, well, where are we going to go? And they just told me what I'm trying to teach them. If you don't know where you're going, there's a Yogi Berra quote about that, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was funny.
Like any road will take you there.
But Yogi made it really funny. He was good at saying funny things, but
I like when he said nobody eats at that restaurant anymore. It's too busy. Can't get in.
I'll have to look that quote up so that next time someone asks me, I'll know how to say it.
Okay.
Let me continue down the list. After you develop the skills, you have to make detailed plans. When I first got into business, one of my mentors said, well, where do you want to be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? What do you want to leave after you've gone? I had never heard those questions before, and I didn't know what to say. Well, this was 1975, so that's 50 years ago, and I still think about that conversation. So you need to make detailed plans for tomorrow, for next week, for next month, for next year, for 5 years, 10 years. After World War II, China was in pretty bad shape. I mean, it was totally broke. They had a lot of people that were starving to death, and it didn't look good for China. But the leaders of China sat down and they started making plans. And they made plans for 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20. And the plans it was amazing. It was unreachable, it looked like. But in 10 years, they'd surpassed their 10-year plan. In 20 years, they'd surpassed their 20-year plan. And now, 50 years later, they've more than, look how powerful and how much money and how successful that country is. And coming from nothing, absolutely devastation at the end in 1945. So plans are important. And if you don't make them, well, you're not going to get very far. Then the next thing is, none of the things I mentioned are important unless you take action. And I taught my students that I expected them to take massive action. And then I explained to them how massive action was different from regular action. If they had planned to go out and see 10 houses and the sun was shining and everything was wonderful, they go out and see 30 houses. But if they planned to go out and see 10 houses and they had the cold and it was snowing and the roads were closed, they still go see 10 houses. Now that's massive. Most people are not willing to take massive action. But if you want to become successful, that, again, another thing that will set you apart. And then you have to form great alliance. Like you and I talking, this is an alliance that's going to help us both. So it's a good alliance. And in real estate, you align with good contractors and electricians, and it goes on, mortgage companies, banks. But it doesn't have to be real estate. you can form alliances in whatever. If you're an engineer, you want to meet really good engineers so that you can exchange ideas and work together to make things happen, because more than one working on something is better than two individuals. And then the last one, and I guess the most important one, is to be persistent, because you're going to get knocked down. It doesn't matter what you do, what industry you're in, what business you're in, or even if you're not even in a business, you're going to have problems. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to lose money. You're going to make a mistake. People are going to turn their back on you. You're going to get disappointed. And the people who are successful are the people who get back up. No matter how hard they're knocked down, they get back up. They dust their pants off. I know in 2018, I started having strokes. I had 2 massive strokes and 5 small ones. And, I couldn't walk. I couldn't stand up for more than 3 seconds. I was really in bad shape. And so my goal was, I'm going to get better, and you're not going to even be able to tell I had a stroke. I'm going to have a clear mind. I'm going to have a strong body. I'm going to be able to do my work. And so I started studying every day about health, and I learned some really, really important things. And so now I feel better now than I did when I was 6.
That's great.
But it's just a matter of deciding, what is it that you want? And if health is one of those things, you can do that. In fact, Richard, you can pretty much have anything you want if you make it your dream, your destination, your goal, and you move toward it every single day. So this podcast we're having right now is a single step I'm taking today toward a goal that I have of having 1 million real impact daily inspiration books out. So when your people dial in and they get that book and it's free and they think, oh, this is pretty nice, and they give it to someone else, well, then I've taken some small steps in the direction that I'm trying, the destination I'm trying to reach.
Yeah, it sounds like consistent, incremental, positive action will get you to pretty much any goal you want.
Exactly. It's exactly right.
Okay. No, that's great. That's this sounds like it's going in the direction of, again, motivation and, like I said, consistent incremental action. Any case studies, any examples of a student you've had and, some of the amazing things they've done for themselves and their reason why and all that. I found listeners like specifics. So if you have any of these case studies you could relate, no names needed, but that'd be great.
I have quite a few of them. One of the parts of the training was at the end of the training, I had them write a testimonial. I said, be honest. If it was bad, say it was bad. If you didn't learn anything, fine, but I didn't get any of those. I got some really great testimonials. So when I was writing this book, I contacted those students and said, is it okay if I use the testimonials in the book? And they said, oh, yeah, that'd be wonderful. So I did, and I gave them all a book. And then someone came in and said, Dennis, I read your book. We got to talking, and I said, well, which story in the book did you like the best? And he thought for a second. He said, I like the story of the little girl from Brazil who came to the United States, and she gave you every penny she had. She gave you all of her money. And within a year, she had made 10 times that much because of your training. And I thought that's funny, because that's not a story in the book. That's a testimonial in the beginning, but he liked that better than some of the stories in the book of famous people. So I called her. I think she's in Brazil right now. And I called her and I told her that her story was better than some of the ones of, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Abraham Lincoln and the Andrews sisters. She thought that was funny. But she came to the United States, and she spoke Portuguese and had a really strong accent. She used to come in and tell me that nobody could understand her. And I made her stop saying that. I said, you speak English very well. Stop telling yourself that you can't speak English, because nobody believes you. And so she became really proficient. She came in, and I had all my students write down a goal. How many homes are you going to purchase over this next year? And she had written down 32. And so I said, well, Lynn, I think you're being a little bit overly optimistic. 32 homes in a year, single family homes, that's really pushing it. You could probably do it, but I think it'd be better if we started out making your weekly goals easier. So I had her cut it to 16, and we changed her numbers. At the end of the year, guess how many homes she had?
31 and a half.
She had 32. because
Thoughts?
even though I changed the goal on her paper, she didn't change it in her head. And now she has hundreds. She's a multi-millionaire. She has hundreds, maybe over 1,000, maybe closer to 2,000. And she's just a super successful person. And most of the people in the front of the book where I use their testimonials, they're millionaires. And most of them started with pretty much nothing. But what they're saying in their testimonials is, if you'll listen to what this guy says, he'll change your life. And I'm not saying anything special. I'm just saying, if you follow these laws of nature, if you just follow and work with them instead of against them, you can become successful and have whatever you want.
How have you seen people's definition of success change as they go along this journey?
Everybody has a different definition of success. Some people want to be happy. Some people want to help other people. Some people want to go on a trip. Some people want to live in a nice home. Success is moving toward whatever it is that you have a burning desire to achieve. Now, the first thing that you have to become successful is a burning desire to achieve something, because you can't be successful. Well, you can. You can be successful with other people's desires. If you get up and go to work for someone else and you're happy at doing that, well, then you're successful. And you're successful for them, you're successful for you. Whatever makes you happy, if you really enjoy going in and accomplishing something and getting a pat on the back and getting a pay raise, well, that's success. That's what you desire. That's successful for you. But most people, or a lot of people, are not happy with that. They want more. And the human spirit desires more. So if you can go ahead and listen to your inner voice, it will tell you what your desire should be. Everybody wonders, well, why am I here? Well, you're being told why you're here all the time. It's called desires. You have these desires. Oh, man, I wish I could do this. I wish I could be this, or I wish I could own that. Well, there's a story in there about Conrad Hilton in the book.
Paris Hilton's dad, but that's probably the least most important thing about it.
Right. So he was born into wealth. He had lots of money, and he went into politics and came out of it and didn't like it, wanted to go into business. He wanted to go into banking. He found a bank to buy in Texas, and he went down to purchase it, but for some reason it fell through. So he took the same money and bought a hotel. And he did so well with the hotel, they started buying hotels. He bought 3 a year. Well, everything was going really great for him. And then in 1929, the Great Depression hit, and the hotel industry was really hit hard, harder than any other industry. So he had hundreds and hundreds of rooms that were empty. So to make the long story short, he lost everything. He didn't have any money. His bellboy loaned him $300. He went to get gas, and the gas attendant said, I can't give you any more credit. I've already filled your tank 3 times on my money. I mean, he was totally broke. He had to borrow money to get a train to go see one of his other hotels. So he was in a train one time in Texas, and he saw a magazine with a picture of this new hotel that was being built. And he looked at it. It was the Waldorf Astoria. It wasn't built yet, but it had a picture of what it was going to look like. And he tore the picture out of the magazine and he wrote on it, "One day I'll own this hotel." Now, he was broke and riding on a train with borrowed money, and he tore that out of a magazine and put it in his pocket. And guess what? He bought it and renamed it the Conrad Hilton. Now, that is a desire. I mean, that's the kind of, thing that you have to do when you get a desire. It's a gift. So you accept the gift and say, okay, now what do I have to do to get there? And you use the 7 secrets of success, which is get your mind right, seek wisdom, develop skills, make detailed plans, take massive action, form great alliances, and be persistent. And you never quit until you have whatever it is that you want.
Okay, well, fair enough. So what's the best place for people to find out more about your work? They can get the book. Let's restate the URL.
It's realimpactbook.com, REALIMPACT book, BOOK.com. And it has a video there about the book. It has a link where you can give I have a charity so that we give it in communities that are depressed. They don't have much money. Their libraries can't afford books. So we give them books. And then in smaller schools that don't have a budget and areas where the community can't afford a good budget for their school, we give books to them. And so we have a GoFundMe program to give these books out. And we want to give out thousands of them. So if you want to donate $1 or $5 or $10 to help children, because this will help with child literacy and continuing education. A child 12 or 13 years old that takes this book and reads it, it can change their life. And I know it can. So we're trying to help as many as we can with that. So I hope you'll go to the website, look around. It's a beautiful website. It tells about how to use this for gifts. And then at the bottom, you can get your book, your ebook for free. It comes in audio book, soft cover, hardcover, ebook, and then we have an app that's being produced. It's not ready quite yet.
Okay. Well, very good, Dennis. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your wisdom. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Richard. I really appreciate you having me, and I hope you'll have me again sometime soon.
Excellent.
If you like this podcast, please click the link in the description to subscribe and review us on iTunes.
You've been listening to the Finding Genius podcast with Richard Jacobs. If you like what you hear, be sure to review and subscribe to the Finding Genius podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And want to be smarter than everybody else? Become a premium member at findinggeniuspodcast.com. This podcast is for information only. No advice of any kind is being given. Any action you take or don't take as a result of listening is your sole responsibility. Consult professionals when advice is needed.